Good morning. As we get started with the month of September, we are in Stewardship Month, and off and on, I'll be talking about that in our morning moments and at church, Sunday school class. I think all of our adult Sunday school classes and our Spanish department are all supposed to be focused on stewardship. And the word stewardship, it implies the taking care of something. The steward is talked about in the Bible. That's the man who owns the estate, the farm, the whatever it might be, and he may have livestock and crops, and he also has a household. He has various employees, servants, whatever it might be. He's got a house physically to take care of, a house, food, clothing, those kind of things, all these things. And a steward might be over all of that, but not own any of it. As a steward, the Bible says a prudent wife is from the Lord. And so God gives me this prudent wife. And she is a gift from the Lord. And I should take care of her because she is from God. And I need to understand that I should treat her as He would want me to treat her. She's not my own, and she technically, I guess we could say she is, but she's God's daughter. And she belongs to Him, and I don't want to treat her in a way that would not honor the one who gave her to me. And so in your marriage, we should steward that person that came from the Lord. And our money, it all came from God. And I would want to spend my money in a way that would make me a good steward, and I think when it comes to stewardship, if I hire a stockbroker, and I'm not even sure how you do all that stuff, but if you hired a stockbroker and I put money in his hands, it's his job to take my money and make it into more money. That's his job. I didn't hire him to be benevolent and give my money away. I could do that. I hired him to take good care of my money so that it would be honorable. I don't want someone I give money to and say, I'd like you to invest this. I don't want him to invest it in liquor. I don't want him to invest it in Hollywood. I would like them, and there are socially, I forget the term, but basically appropriate investment portfolios where everything on their list is, it's not going to be cigarettes and liquor and pornography and those kind of things. It's going to be things that are more socially acceptable and morally appropriate. And so as a steward, we're to take care of things for God. A couple things I want to throw out to you today. You probably can't see this online, but here's a prayer card for the Petersons. Tim and Sarah Peterson, and in this picture, there's 6 children, but their 7th is maybe born by the time you see this. I'm not sure. But they've got their 6 and one more any day now, the 7th. And the Petersons are starting Foundations Baptist Church in Rialto. We talk about stewardship. We've been gifted. This young man, born in our church, raised at our church, went through all of our Sunday school classes, went through our Christian school, went to our youth department. It's amazing the number of great workers out in the ministry that came through our youth department. And also not just great ministry people like missionaries and pastors and Christian school teachers, but also the number of people out in the business world. I mean, successful people that have been very successful, and they all went through the same Christian school. They all went through the same youth department and the same camps. And what God has done through the good people at Faith Baptist Church is pretty amazing. But in regard to stewardship, here's a young man and his wife who are willing to go to a place and put their all on the line and say, I'm willing to go start this church. And we have the great privilege of having a relationship, so we can be involved. We can be involved in them through finances. We can give money to help this church. There's going to be rent every month. There's hymnals to buy. We've already ordered a case of hymnals. But there's a lot of little things, hymnals and offering plates and communion table or communion trays and those kind of supplies. There's, depending on where they're going to be, a keyboard or a piano needed. There's going to be maybe chairs. And right now there's chairs where they are, where they're thinking they'll meet. That's temporary. and we're 4 weeks away from their opening day, and so there's a whole lot of needs, and he needs a salary. They need food, and they need clothing for these 7 children, and they have needs, and so we have a chance to invest in this great family and this great work, Foundations Baptist Church in Rialto. Some of our folks are going up, me and many of us. We're going to steward. We've got 168 hours a week. Let's put some of those hours and invest them in this new church, knocking on doors, passing out flyers. I'm not going to be able to go up on a Sunday. I'm kind of committed on Sundays, but we've got people that are going to go up and be an usher, play the piano, sing a special, work a nursery, teach a Sunday school class, just be a parking lot greeter, to stand out front shaking hands. Welcome to Foundations Baptist Church. We're glad you came. And walking them in the front door, then going back out, greeting the next people. We need workers, and that is stewarding our time, talents, and treasure. And you may not be able to play a musical instrument or sing, but can you shake a hand and welcome people? And that's being a good steward of your time, of whatever talents and treasure we have. So along those lines, we've got a couple of these that you're going to see at church. And this is basically a preparation for the end of life. And does your spouse know whatever it is? Where is your life insurance policy? Where's your trust? I've been in the mortuary with people where a surviving spouse needed discharge papers of that person, of their spouse who was in the military. And the military will care for the burial and much of the expensive things that go along with the funeral, but they want discharge papers. Does anybody know where your discharge papers are? And so where are the bank accounts? What are the account numbers? What are the credit cards? What are the credit card numbers? All this information. And then, and this part of it is just the financial part, what I'm looking at right here. Are there any annuities? Are there any investments? Are there any, maybe there's an insurance policy, but then there's this little one that you got through something you did, and it's just for $5,000, whatever. Well, that's a lot of money when your spouse has lost you. And so those kind of things, where are those where's the paperwork that goes along with those insurance policies? Does your spouse know passwords to the various computers, tablets? Do they know how to sign into your mortgage account? So we want to get this kind of a thing filled out. It's not for the church, for you. And then there's other pages that go along with it that would help with the pastor. Here I am getting ready to do a funeral for somebody. Do I know when they got saved? Do I know when they were baptized? Do I know where they were involved in ministry? And during their, maybe there's one of our dear members right now, not far from heaven's door, and in late 80s. Well, I may feel like I know them, but I didn't meet them till they were 70, let's say. Well, that's 70 years. I don't know. Where did they work? Where did they teach Sunday school? How many children? Are there other children around that I might not know about? Are there things that they were involved in ministry-wise that would be neat to bring up at a funeral service? Favorite hymns? What songs would we like? This, for me to be able to say, this Mr. Smith here, his favorite hymn was Amazing Grace, and we'll sing that in honor of his memory. And this end of life set of forms, you keep it, but make sure your spouse knows where it is, and it should be yours and your spouse's, and all those kind of things. Get all that stuff taken care of. It makes you a good steward. And I want to show you something. This is just a canning jar, a quart canning jar, and you may not be able to see it, but it's filled with rice and golf balls. And this is an example. It's a stewardship illustration. I'm using this I teach a boys class in our Christian school, junior and senior boys, and but I'm going to use this in class. And if you put if you let the rice represent the things that you enjoy doing, and the golf balls represent the things that have to be done, the things that are necessary. If you put all the rice in this, and I do this in front of the class, put all the rice in first, it'll fill up to about here. And then you try putting the golf balls in, they won't fit. There's no way you could get all the golf balls in because the rice went in first. So the rice represents the pleasures, the things you enjoy. The golf balls they represent duty, things that are the right things, Bible and prayer and church and taking care of the car, dating your spouse, teaching the children, the things that are essential to do. I mean, from changing the oil in the car to working on a bus route or whatever. Well, if you dump all the rice out and then you put the golf balls in, and the golf balls, remember, they represent the important things, the things that are biblically important. You put the important things in first, and then you dump the rice in, shake it a little bit, and the rice falls in, and it all fits in here just fine when you do your duty first, and then your pleasure. If we will get our priorities right and do duty first, pleasure will come. If we put pleasure first, there's not room for duty because it's God who allows us to be a good steward of our time. Proverbs talks about length of days and long life will he give to you. Well, we need to keep our priorities right. Well, I want to look at 1 Corinthians chapter 4 for just a minute. We've been in 1 Corinthians on Wednesdays. In 1 Corinthians chapter 4, excuse me, let a man so account of us as the ministers of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. The little statement there in 1 Corinthians 4:2, it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. You know, God expects you to be faithful. He doesn't expect you to be beautiful or, tall, dark, and handsome. You don't have to be an anorexic size 2. And none of that stuff. You don't have to be a great cook. You don't have to be the best organizer, bookkeeper, a talented teacher, singer. Be faithful. Faithful is whatever God has given you, you make sure it's used for him. Faithful means that things and the talents, time, talent, and treasure, the things God has given you, that you take those things and say, let me use those for God's glory. 1 Corinthians a little later says, whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of God. Over in Revelation chapter 4, verse 11, says all these things are made for God's pleasure, not for my pleasure. Now, if I will put the things in first that are God's pleasure, then God lets the rice of my pleasure filter in all around it. But if I put all of my pleasure as a priority in front of God's pleasure, what happens is there's not room for the things that please God. And so, as a steward, we're to be a good steward. You have time. Take time. Maybe you are not working, you're retired, semi-retired, you have extra time. What are you doing with that time? How about saying, I'm going to take responsibility for coming down once a week and washing the windows in the church or in the Sunday school building. Or I'm going to take one bus and every week I'm going to come down and wipe down the seats, sweep the floor, and it may already have been swept, but sometimes when you're driving home after dropping off kids, the bus not swept as good as it could be. And you might just say, that's my bus. I'm going to wash the windows inside and out. I'm going to wash the seats, and I'm going to sweep out the bus. And every week, I'm giving that to God. I don't have enough help to work a 40-hour week job, but I can climb on a bus and sweep the bus and wash windows. I can do that. Or maybe you'd say, I'm going to take care of one corner flower bed at church. And that little corner, I'm going to make sure there's flowers in it. I'm going to make sure the weeds are pulled. And I'm not just going to plant flowers in it and ignore them and let them all get grown over with weeds. That's going to be my corner. I'm going to be faithful. See, it's required in stewards that a man be found faithful. And so you decide what you want to do with your time. You have children. Then you need to be faithful. You be faithful to take care of them physically, take care of them spiritually, make sure that they're in church, make sure they hear the word of God regularly. And then body, soul, and spirit. The spirit is that spiritual in Bible and prayer, Christian school, that kind of thing. But the soul is what you are. Unsaved people have a soul. And so the soul is your emotion, intellect, and will. So I'm not going to let my child, a good steward will not let their child idle away their hours in a video game. They're going to read books, but not just any books, good books, productive books. They're going to learn how to work work with their hands. They're going to learn what a callus is. They're going to learn how to use a shovel, a weed eater, a lawnmower. They're going to know how to freeze dry or dehydrate or can fruits and vegetables or whatever it might be. That's the soul, emotion, intellect, and will. I'm going to help train my child. I'm going to be a good steward. Now, if you don't have any children, you don't have to be a steward of the children. But if you have a spouse and you have children, you're to be a good steward. Our stewardship book that we're going to pass out, it's got a section for dates. Where are you going to go as a couple? Look at that 12-month calendar and make a plan. Hey, how about in December we go down to San Bernardino downtown, and there's a famous hotel there, and they've got all kinds of neat things. Or maybe you're going to take the whole family to the Hotel Del on Coronado Island and ice skate right next to the ocean. What a neat thing. Maybe it's 4th of July, and you're going to go one year as an accident. We didn't plan it, but we were down in San Diego with a bunch of folks, and the fireworks are going off right there between Coronado Island and the mainland. What a blessing. So you might look at that 12 months. I have right on my calendar at the end of November on my calendar, it pops up each year, is there's a Newport Beach boat parade. And there's all different ways to see it. We've just driven up there, parked it's popular, and we've had to park a half mile away or whatever. And then we wander up and just find somewhere along the harbor there and just sit and watch the boats go by. These boats are decorated. They spend thousands and thousands of dollars. Everything from a little tiny fishing boat to a yacht. And write in date things. What are you going to do in the fall? How about going to Julian and picking apples, or up toward Julian South, or up toward I'm blanking on the place above Cherry Valley, apple orchards and things, and plan something to do with the family. Get some things picked out. Summertime, we're going to bike ride down some bike trails along the coast somewhere, whatever it might be. But being a good steward of your spouse, being a good steward of your home. God's given you a house. All right, there's some things you ought to do. Maybe every month you're going to pick a different thing. We're going to do some extra deep cleaning in this area. This month we're emptying the garage and we're going to clean out the garage. I don't know, whatever. But being a good steward. See, it's required in stewards that a man be found faithful, not spectacular, just faithful with whatever you have. And if you have extra money, use it for God. You don't have to spend it. You don't have to own a yacht and 3 extra houses. You could put a couple of kids in the Christian school and you pay their tuition. You could buy a bus. You could tell somebody in the church, I will pay to have you trained and go through the training program and get your CDL and passenger endorsement. I'm not in good enough health to be a driver, but I'll finance it if you'll go do this. And there's all kinds of things we could do, but just a steward is to be faithful, just faithful. You're saved, aren't you? Then I think being a good steward of your salvation would be to tell somebody else about it. So as we go into Stewardship Month, all the month of September, let's talk about it. Let's plan it. Let's think about it. Now, you may have a good testimony. When did you start tithing and why? That'd be good to share in church during testimony time. Every service, we're going to have testimonies, most services, maybe not every service, but we'll have testimonies about stewardship. How did you decide when and how did you decide you're going to get rid of all of your credit card debt? How did you do that? How did you get your credit cards paid off? Maybe you're paying extra on your mortgage and you're going to get 5 years off your mortgage and you made this decision to do X, Y, and Z and it produces this or that. But stewardship, maybe how did you decide you're going to raise these kids? You made some decisions about stewarding your children. How did you pay to get your kids in the Christian school? You started giving to missions. How did you do that? Where'd the money come from? You started a home business. Not a lot of hours, but enough hours that you were able to put some extra money in to we need a new building at our church. All right, so if you're watching this, we need your money. We'd rather you get saved first, and after you get saved, if God leads you, give your money too. But we need a new building. Our building is full, and we're just finishing summer now, and we do need we need space. And maybe I was mentioning somewhere the other day that One of my friends, a bunch of people in their church, they needed some remodeling, building space, so they got more room. So a bunch of people in the church all got a second job, just a 5-hour, 10-hour week job, a side job, and all that money, 100%, was put into the church building fund to provide this building. They didn't have extra money on their own; they were living within their means, but they said, "I don't have to quit drinking coffee or soda. I'm going to go work a 10-hour a week job at this place." And all that money goes in to the building fund or whatever. So think about it. Stewardship. Let's be good stewards of what God's given us. If you've got health, use some of it for God. If you've got wealth, use some of it for God. If you've got some skill, something in your head, you can play an instrument, get in our church orchestra. You can sing, get in the choir. We need ushers. We need parking lot greeters. We need just about everybody. There's all kinds of needs in a church. And we need you. And I hope you'll consider this thing. Let's be focused this month on being good stewards.